Slide 2. Social inequality is about how people are not equal in society. Economic inequality, people's lack of financial inequality and why they are not financially equal. The two are closely related, and there are many social disparities. For example, in housing, some Americans live in luxurious homes while others do so in underdeveloped neighborhoods. These disparities may be the result of economic inequality, as one's income has an impact on their ability to live in a good neighborhood or home, and then it further impacts education, health, and more. In this presentation, we look at how low income affects both society and the economy. Slide 3. Neighborhoods with different income levels have highly distinct social, economic, and cultural conditions. Compared to low-income neighborhoods, high-income neighborhoods typically provide better health care, grocery stores, and educational opportunities. Minority groups including blacks, Asians, and Hispanics frequently reside in low-income areas, whereas whites predominate in high-income areas. Families with high incomes typically have fewer problems accessing resources such as housing, healthcare, education, and other necessities. Low-income families, however, struggle more and have less access to quality resources, for inequalities in schooling are severe in the USA. These are mostly the result of income, and minorities are once more the most severely impacted. The fact that schools in wealthier regions frequently receive more financing than schools in poorer areas is a major concern in American education. This is often referred to as a funding gap. This has an impact on Black and Hispanic households the greatest, since it implies that children from less affluent communities do not receive as excellent an education. The U.S. has a poor level of education in part because children from low-income homes are 6 times more likely to drop out of school than children from high-income families. Education disparities are mostly caused by the financial gap, or the lack of support for schools in less wealthy regions and the lack of support for students learning a second language. In the USA, teachers are compensated according to their credentials, years of experience, and extracurricular pursuits. This implies that instructors with the highest levels of training and experience get paid more. The inequities in the U.S. educational system are partially explained by the fact that schools with limited resources cannot afford to hire the best instructors since they are paid more. Slide 5. Teachers have stronger cognitive abilities in countries such as Finland, Ireland, and Canada, where salaries are higher, and students do better in math and reading as a result. In Finland, there are 3 teachers present in a classroom at once, to teach and help students one-on-one on assignments. In the U.S., there is a shortage of teachers due to low wages. Poorer communities often have teachers who are paid less and have little funding for after-school activities or school supplies. Finland's dropout rate is 2% in comparison to the United States, which is 25%. Finland is considered to be a global success due to its education system. The country has put great time into their education system, as well as raising pay for the teachers to ensure that children receive quality education. Slide 6. Education plays a role in a number of positive socio-economic outcomes. 1. The more you learn, the more you earn. Less education reduces one's chances of landing a high-paying job. 2. Employers select workers with higher qualifications to reduce their risk of hiring someone with a lower capacity to learn. 3. In addition to encouraging entrepreneurship and technical advancement, Slide 7, gentrification is frequently depicted as a two-edged sword. It modernizes older, mostly outdated housing in metropolitan areas with appealing, contemporary infrastructure, but it might have a negative impact on low-income households who are priced out of the market for upgraded housing. They will not only have to put up with poorer housing circumstances, but they will also have restricted opportunities for jobs and education. Housing inequality is correlated with income. Income is correlated with education, and poor education levels makes it dip. Slide 8. There are several examples of both the direct association between income and the physical characteristics of housing, the number of conveniences, the quality of the neighborhood, etc., and the inverse relationship between income and overpopulation. Additionally, low-income families with broken families are more likely to live with relatives. Only 2% of married couples with children and over a quarter of one-parent households lived at a relative's house in 1959. Neighborhoods are more important for low-income families than for high. Slide 9. Barbara talks about her experiment with working a minimum wage job in the Aaron-Reach reading. She has to find a way to use the little to no money she makes to cover her rent. She explains that she had to choose between price and convenience and rented a $500 per month apartment on a 2-lane highway, 30 miles from potential job opportunities. She notes that if there was construction going on, it took longer to get to work. The Preamble Center for Public Policy estimates that the odds against a typical welfare recipient finding a job at such a living wage are about 97 to 1. For instance, according to the National Coalition for the Homeless, it took an hourly wage of $8.89 per hour on average nationwide in 1998 to afford a one-bedroom apartment. Low-paying employment cannot alleviate poverty or, potentially, even homelessness. Slide 10. Poor and overcrowded housing as well as pressure to earn additional or replacement income for the father's income may have a negative impact on family life. According to Paul Glick's research of census data from 1950, one of the best markers of socio-economic position is the inverse relationship between the rates of separation for women and the number of years of education completed. Women with 4 or more years of college had the lowest divorce rates, while those with 3 to 4 years of high school had the highest rates. Combining the divorce and separation rates for women between the ages of 15 and 54, it is evident that family instability is linked to poor socio-economic levels. 2. According to a specific analysis of data from Philadelphia from 1950, both divorce and desertion have a tendency to be negatively connected with employment levels. Slide 11. The National Health Survey found that the amount of medical care received by a family was related to the family income. For instance, across children aged 5 to 14, those from households making $4,000 or more visited the dentist 3 times more frequently than those from families making less than $4,000. In its 1955 Household Food Consumption Survey, the Department of Agriculture discovered a strong connection between family income and the amounts of nutrients present in diet. Low income and lack of resources heavily play a role when it comes to mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety and so on. Slide 12. A gain in income causes a rise in demand for goods and services, whereas a decrease in income causes a fall in demand. 2. Since wealthy families in the United States tend to save money rather than spend it, income disparity is limiting the expansion of aggregate demand. The failure of the average American worker's wage to keep up with the growth in the economy's productivity has been the primary cause of this rise in inequality. 3. According to EPI, in recent years, growing inequality has reduced aggregate demand growth by 2 to 4 percentage points of GDP annually. 4. According to the Bertrand and Mullainathan reading, every measure of economic performance indicates severe racial inequality in the United States job market, with African Americans being twice as likely as white individuals to be unemployed and earning roughly 25% less when they are working. Slide 13. What we can do to bring change can consist of increasing the minimum wage, affordable housing, and job skills training for low-income and homeless Americans. Providing support for low-income and food-insecure children such as Head Start, the National School Lunch Program, and the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF authorization. Increasing resources for public education and access to higher education as well as funding schools. And lastly, to create a safety net for children and families that provides real protection against the harmful effects of economic insecurity.